Good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News, where we rate articles essential, important, or optional. You can find the articles at gaiinsights.com/articles. Please comment along and tell us whether you agree, disagree with what we're talking about. It's an interactive show, and your opinions really do matter, and we try to respond. So let's proceed. It's today I have John, Ankash, and myself, John, and Ankash. So we're going to review 6 articles for you. Let's proceed to the first one, Ankash, please.
Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from OpenAI, and it is titled "A Business That Scales with the Value of Intelligence."
Yes. What do you think about this, John? This is
I was going to give this an optional read. I think that this is a screed by the CFO talking about why basically what their economics are going to look like, why they have to introduce advertising, and how their business model of putting a ton of compute together is necessary as people consume intelligence. So really not a lot here for the AI leader. We know they're going to go advertising. I think as Paul has noted a number of times, I think this is all in preparation for their IPO in terms of conversation with the market. So definitely optional.
Okay. Ankash, what were your thoughts?
It was optional as well, Luda. I think OpenAI, they have announced that they will be putting in ads in ChatGPT. So that's our next article as well. And it seems like they are setting up the stage with this article for that. There have been other comments from their CFOs on various portals about how they won't harm anyone in terms of using the in-chat data to do personalization and stuff. And I think this seems to be a precursor to that. So optional read for any AI leader.
Yeah, I was also optional. But as I was reading it, the pressure was building, and I was thinking, okay, they are going to tell us it will be not $20, but $100. It will be, way higher pay per month. I didn't get that, but I got that the ads are coming in the next article. Yeah, so interesting. They haven't done this yet. The $20 remain, but I wonder. So optional for AI leaders. Let's proceed to the next one, Ankash.
So the next one again comes from OpenAI. As we discussed in the last article, this is about their approach to advertising and expanding access to ChatGPT.
Yes, Ankash, if you could summarize it, please.
Sure, Luda. So basically what OpenAI now plans to do is it plans to introduce ads in ChatGPT, and it is starting with the free tier and a Go tier, which is the lower price tier that it has launched, the $8 a month tier. And it is planning to include these ads at the bottom of the responses. Once you have gone through the response, you will see ads which are relevant to the conversation that you are having. Now comes the tricky part here. So what ChatGPT or OpenAI is suggesting is that the ads that they will include, it will not influence the answers that ChatGPT is giving us. They are saying that ads will always be separate and clearly labeled. And then they also claim that they won't optimize for the time spent in ChatGPT. And all these statements that they have made, they sort of go against how ads work or how we have seen ads work in various sort of social media apps that we use. If we had discussed this before a few months back as well, where there was a conversation that ChatGPT is trying to go to the social media route. It's trying to farm engagement, and now they are claiming the opposite of that. So I think this is an important announcement for every AI leader, not just from the perspective of how their data will be treated, how their chats will be treated, but also the impact that it will have on the advertising industry. Till now, all the marketers, advertisers, they were optimizing for SEO. Now they will need to optimize for answer engines as well. And now, earlier they were not saying this explicitly, but now these answer engines are saying it explicitly as well. We have seen this happening with Gemini earlier, where they are bringing ads in AI overviews, and now with OpenAI as well, that they are testing ads in ChatGPT. So I think this is an essential read for an AI leader.
Okay.
Essential read.
Essential read, you're thinking. And Mark here is suggesting that it was an inevitable development. I kind of agree. And so, John, what did you think?
Yeah, interesting. I had it as optional, but making a case on Kaizen, this is a market leader in terms of use in the certainly in the consumer space, and strong in the industrial space. And yeah, I mean, can you not be aware of this? Probably not. Is it much? Do you get much new information from the article? No, but as an announcement and a confirmation, I could support important and even essential.
Interesting. Yeah, it was kind of inevitable, but it will impact the advertising industry for sure. So let's put it as important. How about that? Essential is, yeah, you will be aware of it, I think. So important it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Okay, the next one comes from HBR, and it talks about why people create AI work slop and how to stop it.
Yeah, so this is the same crew that that introduced the notion of work slop, and the definition is it's a low effort AI generated output that looks very polished, but actually is very low quality and shifts the burden, cognitive burden, to the recipient. And it can introduce bugs into software. It can be pretty dangerous. So the argument of this second installment of talking about the work slop is that it's actually not the people issue, even though they participate in it. It's an organizational issue, and it's a signal that there's a pressure building, there's not quite clarity in the workforce of how to use AI. There's a very good argument, especially because the prevalence of work slop, and they show data, is very high. The 41% of employees admit that they have done it, and 1 out of 10 that for sure they've sent something low quality AI produced. So this is a quite an important issue, and I gave it an essential. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I was really torn. I was either optional or essential. The notion of work slop, is clever, in terms of the naming of it and so forth. It seems to me that these are one part of me says, hey, this is just core management functions. I mean, if you look at their advice, it's basically leadership, culture, accountability. Make sure when people are working for you, they do work that's valuable. I mean, come on, that's like, isn't that? I mean, whatever, Scrooge in the Christmas Carol did that with the people who worked for him. I mean, what the heck? But the reason I might give it an essential is that they do have data. You get the CEO, founder of BetterUp on here. You get a good Stanford researcher, and I forget the third author, but so the fact that it's data driven, it is an issue. Certainly something to see with our clients that people are worried about the quality of work going down. I think it's a really interesting finding in there about how the lack of work slop correlates with trust in the organization. So the Edelman Trust Barometer, which is a pretty good barometer. I mean, Edelman's been doing it for 50 years plus, and that correlation between the quality of your work and lack of work slop. The quality of your work and trust in the organization, I think, is interesting. So I can support essential. I can support optional. I mean, there's another part of me. It's like, hey, this is common sense.
It is common sense, but it's happening en masse, John. I see a number of companies that essentially the leadership, starting with the board, edicted the use of AI across the board. Do it, use it, come back with the results, right? And so people are under pressure to use it, like it or not. And there's another bit in the article saying that people who really understand it and use it properly are very unlikely to send, or more unlikely to send work slop out. So it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
And Kaj, what did you think?
I was optional on this one, Luda. I think the basic premise that they are working on, that organizations are pushing people to or use AI to produce work slop. So I don't agree with that. So even if the organization is not pushing anyone, because these tools are there, everybody will try and use them. So I think the defense mechanism here should be helping those who are using it to understand how to use it better, how to use it in the way that will be productive for them as well as the person who is receiving that work slop, right? So that's my viewpoint. So that's why I was sort of optional on this one.
Interesting. John, so we are
Let's go optional.
let's go optional. Yeah, optional. Okay. Okay, optional it is.
All right.
Let's proceed to the next one.
Okay, the next one is titled The Future of Enterprise Software.
Yes. So, John, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I was kind of on this one, at least important, maybe essential. Lovely argument here by Aaron. It's concise and basically saying that you think about the core systems and peripheral, and he cites Jeffrey Moore's book, talks about core and context or something like that. Anyway, it's a age-old story about what's vital to this organization and makes us unique versus stuff you can buy in the marketplace. And says, look, the world of software has largely been about the core. And he makes at least two interesting points. I think one is he talks about the ratio between core and context. The example he gives is law, where the size of the law business is about 20 to 50 times larger than the size of the software business in law, or 100 times larger. I think it's like 5 billion versus 500 billion. And he says that, hey, look, we're going to start going after that big thing of context. And so the 5 to 7% of revenue that seems to be the boundary for most core software, for most companies, could be a bigger number. We've been saying that a lot, which is AI is going to be a bigger part of your cost base, and as you consume more stuff. And I think it's a nice way to put it, the core and context. The other thing he talks about, is basically that these core systems are going to become more important, not less. A number of people have talked about how SaaS systems and systems of record, we'll recreate our way around those, and you won't need the ERP system. Palantir has had some success doing that with some customers, for example. But I think he's right. I think that in the main, that the core systems will be systems of record will be more important, not less important, as a touchstone for where organizations keep their ground truth for certain activities such as ERP, finance, sales, personnel, and so forth. That those will be more and more important systems of record. And as we've seen at companies we've written about, like Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, they didn't change their core systems of record. They just improved access and then reprocessing of that as they built AI around that. So two important points, relatively short article, well argued. It's got some decent economics in it. I could give it an essential.
An essential. Okay, so I was on the board.
Well, he's the first one for me to tie the context stuff, like the stuff we've been talking about, which is that the way we think about software as part of your cost base is here, we're going to add this. And he gives a good, and he says this is why the 5 to 7% is not going away. Anyway, I thought first person I've read that has articulated that well.
Yeah. Okay. Ankash?
I was essential as well, Ludo, on this one. So he ties, I think, 3-4 concepts really well, as John mentioned. One is we have been hearing it for last 1.5 years, I think Foundation Capital started it, which was services as a software, right? That it will be $1 trillion opportunity for all these ERP firms as well. We recently have been discussing about context graphs, file systems, etc. Right? So ERPs, they are the overall umbrella for all of that, right? So just saying that ERPs won't matter, I think that's a foolish statement, right? They will be the core, I think, for agents as well. There was an interview that Satya Nadella did with Brett Gunster and Bill Gurley about 6 months back. And there he talked about how these ERP systems will be the core for agents, and they will act like databases where agents will go to get uh, verified data, which will be essential to perform all these agentic steps that or agentic workflows that we are looking at. So from this particular article ties all those concepts really well. So essential for that particular reason.
Okay. Um, Yeah, I was important listening to you. I think I can move myself to essential. I think this is more nuanced than this article talks about. Like, for example, ERP system, right? It consists of an underlying database and then a lot of little apps that sit on top of it and perform functions for the enterprise, like accounting and such. And all the other like vendor supply chain management type of stuff. So my thinking, and it's not as well articulated here, is that the database, the system of record, like what you're talking about, John and Ankash, will remain. We need a place to store, even for the agents going out and doing stuff. The input and the output has to sit someplace that is verifiable and deterministic in a sense. So, but all these other applications will change, I think, with AI dramatically, and they become agenticized, if you will. So it's not as deep as I would like to see it articulated, but I think I can live with essential. Okay. Oh, Ankash, you're on mute. You're saying something.
No, Luda, I was just saying that's awesome.
That's okay. Great. Let's put it as essential and let's proceed.
Okay, the next one comes from Anthropic, and it's a case study about how Elation Health delivers faster clinical insights with Claude.
Yes, Ankash, if you could please summarize and tell us what you think.
So basically, Elation Health, they have migrated their clinical insights EHR feature to Claude now. So they are specifically using Claude Haiku 4.5 to do that. And they were hitting three sort of problems earlier, which was latency, there was distrust, and they couldn't find anything which fit with regulated HIPAA workflows. So Claude Haiku 4.5 did all three for them. So earlier, their time to first results was 26 seconds. They got 61% reduction as a result of using Claude Haiku 4.5. Then the chart review time went down. There was 2x adoption of the feature, and there was trust factor as well because Claude was able to provide them citation back to source data. So this is an interesting use case for all the sort of metrics that they have shared. And it's, I think, one of the few use cases that we have seen where Claude is being used for data analysis and providing insights. But it lacks a lot of details that need to go with this to make it useful for an AI leader. So for that reason, I was optional, Luda.
Optional. John, what were you? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, it's going to go important on this one. We get important domain, right? Health in production, over 60% faster evaluations of what's situation is. I could be convinced it's optional, definitely not essential. So it's kind of a thin case study. We get spoiled by the Amazon ones, which have a combination of this kind of stuff as well as technical depth, and this certainly doesn't have any of that. And and it's it's more a PR piece than it is a real case study. So I don't know. I could be convinced it's optional.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking important. I think, again, case studies are very useful. And this one says one thing very clearly, that the application is now almost real time. So the doctors are considering, actually, rather than previewing the record, they're almost like going into the patient discussion with this at their fingertips. So this is acceleration of the getting into the real fiber of the workforce. So I actually liked it from that perspective and was important on it. So maybe we should put it important, okay, Ankash?
Luda, with the launch of OpenAI for healthcare, right, and then Claude for healthcare as well, isn't this one of the very basic use cases that doctors will expect out of those two sort of products that both these foundation model vendors or leading vendors are pushing into the market, right? So from that perspective, I think it's not really differentiated because it will become a commodity uh, as and when hospitals adopt those two tools.
Yeah, but it hasn't been yet. So what they're saying is that the doctors had to spend time sitting down, pulling all the records together, and sometimes misjudging it. Was the case with my mom. So it just when with the long histories, it's very difficult to summarize all of this stuff together very quickly. So this just says it's coming to real fruition. That's why I can go optional, but I think it is an important case stating where we're evolving to. That's why I was thinking important.
This
John,
isn't
you
a
have the last
democracy,
word. You have the last word. What?
I said this isn't a democracy, so go for it.
Go for it. Important.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay,
Next
moving on to the next one. Yeah, this one comes from the New York Times and it is titled Trump is obsessed with oil, but Chinese batteries will soon run the world.
Interesting, right? So I was on this one. I rated it as optional, but it is for people who are following. It's a very interesting case with data talking about what China has been up to. We know what our administration is doing and going after oil and resources like coal and the like. China was focused on investing in all kinds of nuclear, and all solar, wind, hydro. So they have way more sources of energy, and they now produce more electricity than U.S. and Europe combined. That gave me a pause when I read this. So this is quite dramatic. And this talks about EV production and the fact that they took over the rare earth magnets production. 90% is over there. I know for sure that they were focused on the batteries technologies. When I was commercializing IP in Singapore, putting together an institute in the mid 2020s, right? There was a lot of grants from China funding various technologies behind batteries. So it's a very concise opinion, kind of putting a stake in the ground of where China is in terms of energy production. But for the AI leader, I think it is optional. What did you think, John?
Yeah, optional for the ad leader. Absolutely depressing for the country when you look at
You want to cry? Yeah.
the fact that the other thing is you look going forward, the Chinese are going to build out another 350 small nukes. And as is often the case, I believe they're using technology that came from Westinghouse. They have a small, very productive small nuclear reactor. Yeah, like electricity is the future, not oil. And so, I mean, oil is the present, no question. I'm not saying that it always will be oil, but with center of gravity is going to be electricity and batteries. And as a friend of mine who runs an energy company alternative energy company said, "Look, oil is a commodity. Solar is a technology."
Yep.
And so and you look at nukes. I mean, it's a shame that I agree with the CEO of Greenpeace who wanted to basically burn a bunch of the nuclear warheads, of which we have, in my opinion, way too many in nuclear reactors to create green power. Anyway, optional and depressing. Depressingly optional.
Depressingly optional. Yeah, I was almost like I was ready to cry by the end of this article. What did you think about this, Ashish? Or Ankash?
I was important on this one, Luda. I think for the same reason that John is depressed, right? So every AI leader needs to understand that after compute, power is something that will be uh, very much the likely uh, blocking factor for them to use all this new intelligence that we are creating, right? So if they can't secure power to run their own intelligence, and we have been pushing this concept of sovereign AI, own your own intelligence, right? So all those things, they fall flat if they can't secure the electricity needed to run all of that.
True.
So from that perspective, I think leaders need to understand where we are compared to China, what we can expect in the next few years. And I think the author of this article, he has written a great book about it as well. I think he's the same guy who wrote Breakneck, right? So I think it's an informed perspective. While it doesn't have direct takeaways from an AI leader, but it can definitely influence their strategy if they start thinking about electricity as the most important factor for their intelligence from a 10-year perspective. So for that reason, I was important.
Yeah, Ashish, I hear you, but there's little. The depressing thing is there's little they can do. It's a much more massive background operating here. And China was very strategic about it. They have been at it for 20 plus years, right? They put it as a strategy. They started with bikes, then so it just the depressing thing about it is can we catch up? Can we catch up? And that's like, what would AI leader, read this article and then cry in the corner? I don't know what would they do. So
I think with the proper leadership and so forth, we could catch up. I mean, the current leadership just doesn't. I'm not being political here. I mean, there's just the fact of the matter is that this current administration is slowing everything except nuclear and fossil, and that's fundamentally a mistake, I believe. Anyway, this country has done industrial strategy before like that, and the other disturbing thing is that I really do believe in tariffs in certain areas, but the tariffs I think should be on things like robotic actuators and things like that. We should vertically integrate into the future markets, not things like cars. That's important, but cars are anyway. We have enough of a car base to work with. Where we're really weak is in all the components of making efficient robots, and robots are going to be huge in warfare and every other thing. I mean, I just don't get it.
Okay, maybe for the influence point of view, what leaders can do is actually add their voice for the more strategic thinking about this issue, and for that, it's important. Okay, let's rate it important and proceed to the scorecard.
All right.
John, any news?
In terms of we'll be having a number of updates from our colleague Paul Meyer, who's over at Davos. He's going to be moderating 4 panels over there in terms of, and AI, of course, is massive in the context of all that. And one of the panels he's on is that it's not a panel. He's going to be interviewing the CIO of Goldman Sachs, and Goldman has made a huge commitment to what they call the GSAI platform, and they're seeing by their report fantastic productivity out of it. So it should be interesting. Akash, anything?
Okay. So today we have, thanks, John, and we are looking forward to Paul's insights from this very important conference. Okay, we have 1 essential, 3 importance, and 2 optionals. So thank you, Lucinda, Ashish, Vivek, for commenting, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks.